I was testifying on Capitol Hill or at our Capitol in Harrisburg. And what it's about fair funding. And what does that mean? It's all about fair funding for the diverse needs of our students. We're talking about ELL learners, special ed learners. We're talking about students who are not really familiar. We have a lot of immigrant students coming through Reading School District. So what I'm going to do very quickly today is I'm going to take you through a demographic walk of Reading. Then I'm going to talk about the importance of reading and fluency, because we know about the pipeline, and I know Dr. Negrera hit that hard this morning. And then we're going to talk about how do you do it and how deliberate you have to be as a leader to pull this off. We know that the classroom teacher is a powerful, powerful advocate in this journey. But the teacher cannot do it without support at the building level, and the building level administrators cannot do it without support from central office, and central office cannot do it without support of the school board and support of the governance, the local governance, the state governor, as we have here. So here's my walk. Reading School District. Reading School District is the fourth largest district in Pennsylvania. Our demographics, we have approximately 17,000 students, 17.5. And our student population, we're 80% Latino, 9% Black, 0.5% Asian, and the rest of the numbers are Caucasian students. These demographics have changed over the last 20 years. Some of you may be familiar with Reading back in the day because that's where the outlets were. That's where the outlets were. Well, the outlets are gone. They're vacant. They're decrepit. They're gone. The dynamics or the demographics in the city have changed so much. So, looking at Latino students, 80% Latino students. So the first thing that comes to mind, oh, these students must all be Mexican. Oh, they must all be Spanish. Oh, they must all be Puerto Rican. And that's not the case. Our district represents 28 different countries with 26 different languages. And in many districts, as I look among some of my colleagues, those numbers may seem small, but in a city that only has 99,000 residents, those numbers are massive. So as you break it down further, 93% economically disadvantaged or underserved, which means we are 100% free meals, breakfast, lunch, and after-school programming. We're looking at 18.2% of our students are ELL learners, while 16% of our students are special ed learners. So that's the big landscape. So this is where the challenge begins. Challenge number one, because students can't speak the language doesn't mean that they're special ed, right? So we have a saying in Reading is this: because I speak with an accent doesn't mean that I think with one. So you have to believe in that, which means that here in Pennsylvania, unfortunately, ELL learners are characterized as regular ed students, while special education students come with IEPs, individual education plans, and there's some funding that goes there. However, we know with ELL learners, it takes a lot of resources and support to get students to be proficient based on the state accountability measures. So we continue to create revenue streams to support our students. Now, what does that look like? One, we have to have consistent curriculum across the district, because we know, and I think, is my Lowers Park family in here today? Yeah, here we go. As we know, Lowers Park, for example, has 900 students. Last year, they had 700 ins and outs. Now, these students aren't leaving going to New York or going to Lancaster or heading down to Philly. They're bouncing all around the city. On the first of the month, there are Penske trucks everywhere, moving our kids from neighborhood to neighborhood. We know that's an issue, so we have to have consistent curriculum. The second thing that we have to have is the mindset of how to meet the needs of these students, these learners. With students, especially with our ELL population, and many of our students coming from the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico, some from South America, we know that the American schooling system looks very different. We know that. So how do we get the parents involved? We have POAs in every building, which is a parent outreach assistant. They are all bilingual, bicultural, to be able to speak the language of our children and their families, and we invite them in for activities. Now, here's the deal, and I forgot something. One of the major things that we've been using is technology. The world is flat, right? So, we know the old cliche, parent involvement. We want parents to be involved. So you say to the teacher, can you move this data? Oh, parents aren't involved. You have to do that in spite of. We have to move the bar in spite of. Forget about involvement. That's old like gold. Involvement is like us standing here talking about multiculturalism. That's gone. Let's talk about diversity. That's gone. Equality's been gone a long time ago. We're talking about equity, where all means all. So what that means for parents, we can't get them in the buildings. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. We're one of the poorest cities in the United States. But they're very active online. So that's called engagement. Engagement. Parent engagement is the key. The old saying, build it and they will come, or another cliche, take your show on the road. Here is the vehicle, right here. So I saw Joe Mazza walk out the parking lot when I was coming in. And I know Joe very well from the University of Pennsylvania. Joe is the technology guru there. And he knows I'm going to do this because he said it hasn't been done today. So I want everyone, because I saw that we're trending on Twitter today. All right? The world is flat. So everyone, I saw you following the hashtag. I want to add one stipulation in. My hashtag is hashtag RSD proud. That's me. But then I want you to see. I want to see how good you're how good you are with this, because this is a prerequisite. Load up Twitter. Oh, nope, that's tune in. I don't want you to hear what I was listening to early today. Come on back. Let's go to Twitter. Now I'm on Twitter. My handle is Dr. Mumin RSD. DRMUMIN RSD. And follow me. Come on, I know you know what a handle is. All right? Dr. Starr, I know he's active on social media. Now, here's the test. You follow me, then I'll follow you back. Then after I start seeing people follow, then I'm going to say, take a panoramic view of what you're doing today. Then you tweet that with a message. If this is your first time on Twitter, make this the beginning of your journey. This helps. This is how we get parents engaged. No one's got me yet. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong screen, my bad. Okay. Megan Maloney, I saw Megan. Harima. Harima's in the house. I see Harima, all right. Pam Tuggle in the house. Jennifer DePace. Judy Faust in the house. That's what I mean. This is how you connect. This is how you connect. So, keep that in mind as you're working with your teachers and administrators, your administrators and teachers in your buildings and your kids. Make sure that you push your messages out often. I have kids that follow. They love this tool. So I'm going to give one example of the kids, then I'm going to go back to the leadership challenges, down to the building, down to the students. This is how important this is. We had a student last year. This past year, we were one of the districts that took off an entire week for the snowstorm. Not only is the school district strapped for cash, but the city is also. So they had a tough time cleaning the streets. Last year, the previous year, we had cold days, below 0 temperatures. So we closed schools because 70% of my students walk. So my suburban colleagues would say, oh, you made a bad call on that one. I said, no, I make the call at 5:15 to keep my JRTC students from walking past my house on their way to school. I got to get every kid. All means all. So then we called off one of these days, and the class president, he gets on Twitter, and he says, man, why did Mumin call off school today? I'm bored as hell. I said, so if you're so bored, call the superintendent's office. He called. And I said, guess what? Jonathan? You've raised $10,000 in 2 days for our graduation to be at our Santander Center. and it went viral that quickly. You had 12,000 kids on. So if the kids are active, you see parents start tweeting, that's my baby, you know that you have something there. You have something there. So don't underestimate the power of social media and the technology. I'm walking around with two phones, an iPhone, I have a iPad, iPhone, a PC, and also an Apple computer. Two computers in my car and two on my hip. This is ridiculous. But it's necessary. So here's the challenge. I'm going to read an excerpt from President Theodore Roosevelt that he delivered. It's called The Man in the Arena. And I like it because I just feel that fight, that drive coming. The man in the arena. And this is a leadership challenge. Because, and I've heard this before, and I'm not sure if Dr. Starr told me this, what you dream, you will eventually get, but make sure it's what you want. So when I chose to go to Reading School District, I knew what the challenges were. They were as advertised. And I said all of these great things in the interview that I wanted to do, and this is what I wanted to bring, and this is how we're going to do it. And then the first day at work, my first day was in a leadership retreat, and we were talking about equity, day one. So this is how you embrace the challenge as a leader. Theodore Roosevelt said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement? And who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat." You got to wear that on your sleeve. Equity is an issue. ELL learners is an issue. Getting them to read is an issue. Don't romanticize the problem. Go after it with intensity. Be the man or the woman in the arena. So this is how I jumped into the arena. Day one, we started out with a toolkit for hiring, recruitment, hiring, and retention. Day one with my administrators. What does that mean? I had some critics say, "Look at your staff. Your staff is white. This is the problem with Reading School District right here." And I said, no. That's not the problem. It's a thing we have to work on. But the issue is cultural competencies. And I told them, I said, every teacher and administrator that comes through this district will have cultural competencies. And how do I ensure that? Fourth largest district in Pennsylvania. And this is something we did in Caroline County. Every teacher and administrator and support staff comes through central office for their final interview. Every single one. Administrators get me, teachers get my assistant to the superintendent for instruction, and support staff gets my assistant superintendent for business and operations. And the premise behind the conversation is cultural competencies, period. I don't care how well you did in the first two interviews or the first interview. If you can't sell me on cultural competencies and how you're going to build sustainable relationships with kids and families, I don't want you. I don't need you. No matter how good you can work a smart board, no matter how well you can speak to theory, if you cannot build relationships with our kids, I don't need you. And I made that stance the very first day I got there. Now, what it does is, especially for an urban system, it slows the process down because I don't want warm bodies. I want people that understand kids. And the greatest thing is when they say, "Oh, you don't understand." I do understand. I was one of those kids. So you have to sell me on how you understand the cultural competencies, especially reaching Latino students and African American students in Reading, because that's who we are. The second thing is, to pull that off, the board, I sold that in the interview process, which has part of our mission statement, and I don't like mission statements because we never remember them. I created a motto, and it's called One Vision, All Students, One Reading. Very simplistic. One vision, all students, one Reading. Better than a mission statement, because you can remember it, and I can always go back to it. What does this have to do with all students? Talk to me about ELL. How are you going to meet the special needs students in your classroom? Let's talk about that. One vision, all students, one Reading. And it's now become cliche in our district. And everything we do, we're RSD proud. We're RSD proud. So it starts at the top. Now, how does that look at the building level? What happens is we have our central office supporting the building principals to be able to deliver services for our teachers to be able to have the capacity to deliver instruction with lots of confidence with their kids. Now, how does that work for us? We did it in Caroline County, and Carrie Hutchins, she looked at me and I said, you know, in Caroline, I forget the demographics in Greensboro, but Greensboro had a very large, 1/3 of the population of students there were Guatemalan and Mexican, correct, if I remember? El Salvador, but has some of the highest reading achievement data in the state of Maryland. So we infused the ERLA in, and it was a lot to get started. But this is what I found. It's a high level of professional development. It's a huge network, and the teachers, they get to see the data. They have data that they can refer to immediately, and it takes them to another level professionally. They look at the data, it's diagnostic, and then they can inform instruction immediately. It worked in Caroline County with 5,000 kids, 5,500 kids. We start talking about it in the city of Reading, 17,000 kids. And what I found, which is not an excuse, just because we're a poor district, we're urban, our demographics are this and that, I never forget I walk around with $227 million in my pocket. I can find $1 million to run a program to bring kids up to grade level by grade 3. You just make it work. You make it work. You use your demographics to your advantage. And what I found was this. Our teachers haven't had professional development in years. Professional development is professional development that's so powerful that you leave excited and you go back and you're looking to see how you can train the trainer. That's powerful professional development. Our teachers haven't had that in ages. I know I'm short on time. I see Megan over here. Okay? So, this is how it looks. I'm going to give you a deliberate blueprint of what we did from day one last year up to now. And my Lowers Park teachers, you'll be able to provide some authenticity to this. Because the first thing that happened, I came on board. My last 5 predecessors, I had 5 predecessors in 4 years. So the first thing that happened, I asked about professional development. And what was professional development? You sit in front of an old TV with a videotape. So this is how we did it. I'm giving you all my secret sauce because they live with me. But this is how that came about. I said, I want to go to the best venue we have in the city. I want all 2,000 employees with us. How are you going to do that, Mumin? We got to go to the Geigel. That's our big gymnasium. I said, no. I talked to my man Todd down at the stadium. We're going to do it down in the Philly Stadium. Then the high school principal, hey, Doc, if it rains, what's going to happen? I said, I talked to God, man. It's going to be good. I talked to God. Everything's going to work. And I said, I need the entire family together because they need to hear this message around equity and where we're going. And the first thing I did, first of all, I'm in a baseball stadium, so I'm in the dugout, I'm getting fired up, and they like push me out there. I run out there, and I looked at the entire staff, and they looked at me like, who is this guy? And I said, in a white suit. It was seersucker, I think. We're in a stadium, it's 95 degrees, so summer suit. And I looked in their eyes, and I said, wow, they haven't had leadership in a long time. And I said, if you're counting down, this ain't the place for you. Let's check in on me at 45 days, check in on me at 90 days. And I went off on these days, and every time I would be in front of the staff, I would tell them how many days I've been there. The big thing was last summer because my predecessors, this summer, that's when you're done. You disappear at the end of the year and they never see you again. So I have teachers who say, oh, this is just a stepping stone for you. I said, out of my last 5 predecessors, where are they? Where are they? Okay? We can do an unsung series on them. They've all either retired or they've disappeared. One of my predecessors lives in my neighborhood and I don't see him. I'm serious. So it's not about the opportunity to take a leap up. It's an opportunity to do the greater good for kids. So we started from there, just running. And I said, this is how it's going to look. And I'm gonna just summarize this to close out. We're gonna take 5 areas. We're talking about safe schools, because you can't teach anything if your schools aren't safe. Not only the environment that the kids are in, per se, with the physical safety, but looking at the structure itself. You know, water fountains hanging off the wall, chips in the floor. You have to make sure the facility is safe and make sure it is a climate conducive for learning. The second thing is, I say academics. We have 19 schools, 13 elementary schools. The 13 elementary schools, you could find different curriculum in all 13 because there was no leadership at the top. So our teachers were forced to create silos so that they can survive. So you have to take a strong line with making sure we're going to be consistent. The third thing is we looked at fiscal responsibility. You can talk all this stuff, but if you don't have any money and you're not managing it well and you're not prudent with the finances, you'll never get this done. Community engagement is the other, and these documents are online. Community engagement is the other. And I said, forget about involvement. That's not happening. How will we engage our community? Social media, doing social hours and things of that nature, and rewarding parents, educating parents. We have a parent university now. And the last thing is partnerships. I met with all of our partners, and this is the funny thing, because this is your challenge. People are afraid to talk about equity. People are afraid of it. People say, no, I'm colorblind. Put your arm out. We all can put our arms together. I see different hues of skin. So we're not colorblind. People are afraid to talk about equity because you get, oh no, I'm going to be charged with all of the sins of the past. That's not it. It's about evening the playing field. And I say, if you can't build a sense of safety and utopia in schools, where else will it exist? It can't exist. This is the one controlled environment that we have to make a sustainable change with kids. You have to take advantage of that. And I say we're going to walk forward. And we're going to take small steps to get up the ladder. And I say everything we do, I can guarantee you this, and this is what I'll say in closing. Here's the secret sauce. We bring in programming. We make sure that any program we bring in, it maps onto our students' needs. We assessed it first. Then we create a plan. We follow through with that plan. We see it through. Then we implement. Now we really are digging deep. And then evaluate. over and over again. So it's assessment, planning, implementation, evaluate. I call it API. Over and over and over again. So this is what I'm going to do. Because I want you to remember something. I don't want you just to remember I ran in here late. I'm sweating my butt off. I'm telling stories. What can you leave with? We got it. Equity. We got it. We got it. That one sticks because you've been hearing that all day. We know how important reading on grade level by third grade is. We all know that. But how do you do it? How do you stay the course? It's called API. It's assess, plan, implement, evaluate over and over and over again. So when I say A, you're going to say assess. When I say P, you're going to say plan. When I say I, you're going to say implement. And when I say E, you're going to say evaluate. Then I'm going to say over and over and over again. Then I'm going to say it again. A, then we're going to say P, then I'm going to say I, then we're going to say E. Then I'm going to say over and over and over again. Then I'm going to start feeling good about it, okay? And then we're going to stop. All right? So I'll say A, assess, P, plan, I, implement, E, evaluate, over and over and over again. A, assess, P, plan, I, implement, E, evaluate, over and over and over again. Now, I'm a former middle school administrator, and I see some of your mouths aren't moving, okay? So I'm going to get out here. So A, assess, P, plan, I, E, evaluate, over and over and over again. I'm feeling that. A, P, plan, I, implement, E, evaluate, over and over and over again. A, P, plan, I, implement, E, evaluate, over and over and over again. Stay the course. I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to stand before you for a few minutes. Thank you.